Well, from my perspective as the CEO, this need for a governing initiative started as a growing awareness that the board was greatly supportive, wonderful decision makers, but they didn't seem to be as engaged. They came to the meetings, but as engaged as they could be. And we didn't know as a staff how to do anything other than to bring them really, really good, professionally done, finished products, which gave them very little opportunity to actually influence the products except to tweak them. And at the very same time, the board occasionally encroached on the CEO's job. And those two things of the need for them to be more engaged and enjoy their role more, and for us to get a better understanding of what my job is and what their job is, and for both of us to do it really well together, was the genesis of the whole governing initiative, the transformation of our board structure.
This is Al French, the current chair for the board, and I'm now serving my third stint as the chair of the board, and was there when this agency actually had lost its way in terms of who they were there to serve. Were they there to serve the public, or were they there to serve the interest of the agency? And part of that disconnect was the result of a board that had allowed itself to become distant from the agency, where staff was running the agency, and there was no direct connection back to the constituents, which are the taxpayers. And so this agency started the process of reconnecting itself with the customers, our taxpayers, through a process where we established a task force that forced the board members to take ownership of the agency and to provide the leadership and the direction for the agency, and a new direction oriented around the customer. And that resulted in the hiring of Ms. Meyer as our CEO and the continuation of that effort. But when you have a board of elected officials that have a multitude of responsibilities that they serve in their elected roles, it's sometimes the result of that multitasking that has them prioritizing to those agencies that need the greatest control and direction and input. And when you've got an agency that is taking care of itself, like STA was doing, it's easy for the board to become disconnected and say, you know what, everything's working just fine. Well, just fine isn't good enough. We wanted to excel. And so this board made a decision that we need to become better engaged, more involved, and to be able to take the agency to its next level of performance. And in partnership with the CEO, we started that journey. And I think what you're going to hear in this discussion is the results of that journey and those decisions that were made by a board that wants to be engaged and a CEO that wants to be a leader and wants to work with that board to make good things happen for this community.
Well, really, this change is significant for us, and it changed an existing board and committee structure from what had been in place for many, many years. So we have a citizen advisory committee and have had that since about 2005. And they just do a fabulous job working on projects, representing the community's interests, and so forth. And then we had one other committee. And through it, almost every operational decision flowed. It was called the Operations and Customer Service Committee. And it approved scopes of work and made recommendations to the board on much of the work that we were bringing to the board. And the composition of that committee was 4 board members, 3 union presidents representing the unions, not the employees, and 6 or 8 citizen members. And while it functioned really well, it didn't fit the guidelines that Doug Eadie recommended to us, and that is that other than a citizen advisory committee, all the other committees of the board should be composed of just board members. And our board thought that was a good idea. I supported that idea, and it took several months for us to implement it. We got a little bit of pushback from the unions, but everybody else on the committees thought it was a great idea, and we invited all of those wonderful people, citizen members from the operations committee, to join the citizen committee. So we have had actually, I think, 1 or 2 rounds of committee meetings, board operations meetings, as we've gotten started, and we're on a great roll.
Okay, Al, do you want to comment?
Yeah, when you have a board such as ours, where you have 9 elected officials representing communities that are as small as several hundred to the city of Spokane that's over 200,000, and the Spokane County, which is over 475,000, you have a variety of different interests at the table that need to be met. And the best way to ensure that everybody at the table has a voice and everybody at the table's needs are being met, you need to have conversation. You need to have a structure that allows for that conversation to take place. And with the new board structure, it not only encourages, but I think in some cases forces that conversation to take place. And so decisions that are made, I think, will be better decisions because they will be, the people making them will be more informed. And they're more informed because they are playing a more active role in developing the solutions and shaping those solutions before they come to the board for action. And so that, I think, will lead to us raising the bar for ourselves, and as a result of that, providing that next level of performance for the agency for our customers.
The key to success with this initiative began with a joint vision between the board and the CEO about a need to change and improve to be even more successful. And so that was the first most important piece. It wasn't something only the CEO was interested in, not something only the board was interested in. We had a shared vision of where we wanted to go, but we needed a way to get there. Then the next best decision we made was to hire a consultant who had the recipe for how we could be more successful. And Doug Eadie was our consultant and worked with us in the summertime during a board workshop and came back and worked with staff and the board. And his recipe, his roadmap for this governance restructure to be a higher impact organization and board really was exactly what we needed. And his recipe made sense to the board and made sense to me, and he supported us equally well. That, I think, those are the 2 things that made it really successful.
Now, Al, before you start, you know what you might do is talk a little bit about that retreat we had as one of the factors, sort of picking up on what Susan mentioned it, but you might want to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Once we realized that, there was an opportunity for us to be better, but we needed an outside viewpoint to help us shape our actions, that resulted in the hiring of Mr. Eadie to help come in and assist us in this all-day retreat. And, to be able to have a successful retreat, you need to be not only gifted with good leadership and direction, but you also need to have participants that are engaged in achieving an outcome. And in this case, out of a 9-member elected board and then 1 member representing the bargaining units, we had all 10 members of the board present at this retreat, as well as the CEO and all of our senior management staff. So we were all invested into what do we need to do as individuals in our individual roles, but also what do we need to do as a collective board to raise the bar for ourselves. And this retreat helped us not only shape the issues, but also clearly define the opportunity and help us develop for ourselves our own actions to be able to achieve achieve those opportunities. And this board did that. And they came together and not only developed a solution or series of solutions, but invested themselves, committed themselves to be able to stay at the table to make sure that we could achieve success. And that commitment remains today, and with some of the measures we've made so far, it's going to enable and demand that they stay at the table until we achieve success.
One of the payoffs of this restructuring of the board's committees has been, from a staff perspective, a greater understanding of what the board wants. We can guess. We do a very good job of professional guessing in meeting the board's needs, but now we actually have them with us early in the process of planning or budgeting, in defining our performance monitoring sorts of measures. We know what they want, and they tell us, and then we can inform their decisions. We collaborate to come to conclusions, but it is a great step forward to have the board around the table with us, which is one more change we made. That is, we are going to be meeting in a U shape in our boardroom and not at a dais at City Hall. It is better now to have us all around the table collaborating rather than sitting on the dais and the staff in the audience. It's been great for staff.
From the board perspective, it's done a number of things. One, I think it's given the board greater clarity around the direction that we're trying to achieve as a group, as well as the roles that each one of us play as individual board members, and help us focus on, the needs of the agency, but also, the needs of our customers and our taxpayers. I think it's also helped to improve our process. As Susan has indicated, we have changed the structure of our board meetings so that there's a more focused strategy about how we get our business done. And then I think the final benefit is that prior to this point, the face for the agency, if you will, in the community has really been our CEO. And I think with this new ownership opportunity for the board members, we're now not only going to enjoy our CEO as being the face of the agency, but we'll have 9 other elected officials that will also be a spokesperson for the work the agency is doing and the service that we're providing to the customer and the taxpayer. Those electeds might not have felt as comfortable being a spokesperson for, because they weren't as engaged, but now being fully engaged, I think they can speak to the successes of the agency with much greater confidence and pride, because they're going to be part of that success, because they helped physically shape that success. And that can only be good for the agency and ultimately good for the community.